Good morning to all of you. Last week we discussed about inventory management and inventory control, in other words. What do you mean by inventory? We discussed, and I told you that today we will be doing inventory control systems. Inventory control systems. So basically we have three types of inventory control systems that we are using in nowadays scenario. So today we will discuss that first, and we will move on to the other subject, other topic. Inventory control systems. Inventory. So there has been a question number 3B of January 2016, that is a past paper. So there is a question. So inventory, you know, when you run a business, when you do a business, if you keep an excessive amount of stocks, it might lead to some sort of a loss. You will have to incur a big amount of money, your financial resources, towards stocks. So as a very good inventory controller, you should be able to manage your inventory. For example, chicken manufacturing organization. So what they do is poultry farming, and they have huge amount of chicken. Right, and so those might be in raw form as well. And once it is put into the process, we discussed last week, the operations management. Okay, so it starts from the inputs, then the transformation process, and then the outputs. So inputs would be in chicken manufacturing organization, the live chicken. Right, so the live chicken, you know, so in general terms, there is a particular number of days that a chicken can live with your in your farm. So beyond that, it costs you. More than the given number of days, it costs you. Right, so what you do is, you will put that in the transformation process, right? Slaughtering and cleaning, and thereafter packaging. The output would be the packaged, labeled, branded product. So at the beginning as well, you will keep your chicken stock in the farm. That is also some sort of inventory control. Right. Another stock of chicken are to be put back to the farms, and so then another set at the end as outputs to be released to the distributors, and distributors will send that to the wholesalers, another set of wholesalers, and retailers, ultimately the consumer. So when you keep huge amount of chicken, so any excessive day you keep chicken with you, you will have to incur cost. And at the end as outputs, packaged, labeled, branded chicken, more the number of days you keep in your refrigerators, high refrigerators, right, it costs you electricity and so machinery, so many things people have to be put into, look into those stuff. Okay, so it costs you. So business people, since the ancient age, they were very vigilant on their stocks. So we are going to discuss about few methods that we keep. For example, we can mark a particular level at the inputs, right? 5,000 number of chicken would be the maximum, right? When it reaches 2,000, that means 3,000 will be put to the transformation. Again, that 2,000 chicken will be, all right, and you can buy from outside and put that to the farm. So that is a reorder level. So if the number of days for a chicken to be in the farm is 40, that newly bought set of chicken would be living, and so that farming will go on for the next 40 days. When that level, 5,000 to 2,000 reduced, then subject to transformation. So then it will, after the processing, it will come as the output. So an output puts also, you will keep some sort of a stock until it is distributed. So in your stores, warehouses, there's a limit that you can keep. There's a limit that you can keep. Okay, so if this manufacturing process before slaughtering, and you will keep the excessive that amount of chicken at warehouses, and at the end as well, you have to keep the chicken, processed chicken, packaged chicken, branded chicken in the warehouses. So for both warehouses, you need control. So the classic way of using the inventory control systems is continuous inventory systems. Continuous inventory system. Continuous inventory system. Continuous inventory system. What do you mean by that? We will take a small note on that, and we will discuss what is continuous inventory system. In this system, a continual record of the inventory level for every item is maintained. Whenever the inventory on hand decreases to a predetermined level, you determine a level, referred to as the referred to as the reorder point, underline or write that word in a different color. Reorder point. A new order is placed to replenish, refill, replenish. 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 The stock of inventory. The stock of inventory. Full stop. An order that is placed is for a fixed amount. An order that is placed is for a fixed amount that minimizes the total inventory cost. That minimizes the total inventory cost. This amount is called the economic order quantity. Underline that. This amount is called the economic order quantity. Economic, that is where your cost is minimized. Okay, and there's a particular level, reorder level. So when the that reorder level is reached, right, you will replenish, refill. So that is continuous inventory system. You continually, once it is reaches, it will be replenished. For each and every item, there is a reorder level. Reorder level. So that predetermined reorder level, that predetermined reorder level minimizes your cost. That is very economical, right? And this is an order that is placed for a fixed amount that minimizes the total inventory cost. Minimizes the total inventory cost, right? So subject to some calculation that minimizes the total inventory cost. It is called the economic order quantity. Economic order quantity. Okay, and there's a formula. You can go to YouTube and find how it is calculated, right? There's a formula for that. Okay, that is continuous inventory system. For example. Okay. Meat industry. Meat industry. Okay. Rubber industry, including all the other industries, right? Rubber industry, right? And soap, detergent, butter, biscuits, anything. So this continuous inventory system is used, and it is very easy as well. Okay, we'll go to the other type of inventory system. Other type of inventory system is periodic inventory system. Periodic inventory system. Periodic inventory system. Periodic, the term itself says there is a period. There's a period. Okay, by that you will very easily understand what is periodic inventory system. Right, take down. In a period inventory, in a periodic inventory system, the inventory on hand is counted at specific time intervals. Full stop. After the inventory in stock is determined, comma, the order is placed for an amount that will bring inventory back to a desired level. I will repeat it. After the inventory in stock is determined, the order is placed for an amount that will bring inventory back up to a desired level. Okay. So the inventory in hand is counted at specific time intervals. Okay. Take down. In this system, there's a particular advantage and disadvantage as well. In this system, the inventory level is not monitored at all. The inventory level is not monitored at all. The inventory level is not monitored at all. During the time interval between the orders. During the time intervals between the orders. Comma. So it has the advantage of little or no required record keeping. So it has the advantage of, I told you there are advantages and disadvantages as well. So it has the advantage of little or no required record keeping. Right. That is an advantage. Disadvantage. The disadvantage is less direct control. The disadvantage is less direct control. There's no direct control on that. So, within a given desired determined period, we will replenish the stock. That's it. Okay, that is periodic inventory system. Next is ABC classification system. ABC classification system. So under operations management, inventory management plays a vital role. Okay, so how much ever the emphasis is put on the production system, but what if the inventory system is not clearly monitored? So there will be definitely a big loss to the company. Okay, so ABC classification system, right? ABC classification system. It looks like an acronym, but it is not just an acronym. We'll see what does this ABC stand for. The ABC system is a takedown. The ABC system is a method for classifying inventory according to several criteria. Including its value to the firm. Several criteria, including its value to the firm. Okay, several criteria. Okay, so before taking this down in your book, so in this particular inventory system, so the percentages are taken into consideration and that is applied, and we will see how there is percentage system is used. Okay, take down. Typically thousands of independent demand items. Demand items are held in inventory by a company. Are held in inventory by a company, especially in manufacturing, but a small percentage of such high value, to warrant close inventory control. I will explain that. A small percentage. So control, full stop. In general, about 5% to 15%. In general, 5% to 15%. In general, 5% to 15% of all inventory items account to 70 to 80%. Take this down. 5 to 15% of all inventory items account to 70 to 80% of the total value of inventory. This is total value of inventory. Total value of inventory. Okay. Total value of inventory. These are classified as A class, O class A. This is A class. This is A class. Obviously, there should be a B as well and C. We'll see. Okay. There's a small percentage of stocks in your inventory, but it amounts to 70 to 80% of the value. Okay, I will discuss that. Okay. B items represent approximately, B items represent approximately 30% of total inventory units. 30% of total inventory units. Total inventory units, but it will amount to 55%. 55% of the total value of inventory. Total value of inventory. 55%. 55% of the total value of the total inventory value. C items. We will see what C items do. Account to 50 to 60%. Account to 50 to 60%. $50 to 60%. Account of 50 to 60%. Inventory units, but it represents only 5 to 10% of the total value. 5 to 10% of the total value. 5 to 10% of the total value. Right? Okay. So you can see A class units. A class units in your inventory, it is only 5 to 15%. 5 to 15%. A small amount of stocks. Amount. Right? Not the value. Amount. So it amounts to 70 to 80% of the value of the total inventory. For example, automobiles. Automobiles. Okay, so automobile manufacturing organization, it has 5 to 15% of engine parts. Others are other body parts. But the amount of inventory items are just 5 to 15%. But the total value of inventory is very high, 70 to 80%. It costs you a lot for the engine. Okay, B class, 30%. So same industry we will take B class. What do you mean by B class? Right? Other components important to the engine. Other components important to the engine and its functions. 30%. The total amount. And it will amount to the value of 55% of the total inventory. And the last one, C. Body parts, including the chassis. All the body parts, chassis and body kit and lights. Everything amount to 50 to 60%. And its value is just 5 to 10% value. So when you maintain inventory system for this kind of a business, if you keep right a reorder level, periodic inventory system, or that continuous inventory system, it might lead to some sort of a financial chaos. So in order to minimize that, ABC manufacturing, ABC inventory system is used. Okay, take down. In ABC analysis, each class of inventory requires different levels of inventory monitoring and control. Right. Dash and right. Put a dash and right. The higher the value of the inventory, the higher the value of the inventory, comma, the tighter the control. The tighter the control. Okay. Extreme supervision is given and it is located and put that particular item in a very under close scrutiny. Okay. higher the value of the inventory, the tighter the control. That's it. Okay. So this is also a very popular method that manufacturing organizations are using. Okay. Right. We were discussing about the economic order quantity as well. Put a small topic. Economic order quantity model. Economic order quantity model. Economic order quantity model. We call that EOQ. Economic order quantity model. Right? Economic order quantity model. Economic order quantity model. Okay. Take down. This is referring to the continuous reorder level, right? In a continuous or fixed order quantity system, in a continuous or fixed order quantity system, what do you mean by fixed order quantity system? Periodic. When inventory reaches a specific level, referred to as the reorder point, underline that, referred to as the reorder point, a fixed amount is ordered. A fixed amount is ordered. The most widely used, continue, the most widely used and traditional means, the most widely used and traditional means for determining how much to order, in a continuous system is the economic order continue within brackets EOQ model. Full stop. Okay. Right. In another paragraph, the basic economic, the basic EOQ model is derived under a set of assumptions as follows. Basic economic order model is derived under a set of assumptions as follows. Assumptions. These are the assumptions. Assumption number 1. Right, only there are 4 assumptions. There has been a question in the past papers. Demand is known with certainty. Demand is known with certainty. Demand is known with certainty. And constant over time. Demand is known with certainty. The demand is certain and is constant over time. Next point. No shortages are allowed. No shortages are allowed. Number 3. Lead time for the receipt of orders is constant. Lead time for the receipt of orders is constant. What do you mean by lead time? Okay, so you order stocks from a supplier. So lead time is how soon it will reach our place. Lead time is constant. We assume that there will not be traffic and there will not be any roadblocks. There will not be any curfews. Right? We assume that lead time for the receipt of orders is constant. Number 4, the order quantity is received all at once. We assume that order quantity is received all at once. All at once. Okay, so these are the assumptions. Okay, so right, and now we are moving into another topic. Okay, another topic. The topic is this: just in time, JIT system. Just in time, JIT system. Just in time. Just in time. Just in time inventory system. Take down. Just in time inventory system. Just in time inventory system. Right. Right. What do you mean by just in time inventory system? It's something like this. Right. I will give you a very close idea. Okay. So in just in time system, there are no stocks being maintained. Right? You will be surprised why the stocks are not maintained. In just in time system, there are no stocks maintained. No stocks maintained. Then how can they perform their functions? Right. So whenever they want stocks, materials, they order. They order. They have a regular set of suppliers. No sooner the order is placed, they assume that the lead time is consistent, you get the order in time. Okay, that is just in time system. Okay, so the cost involved in inventory systems probably zero. You don't keep any inventory at your warehouses. No, you don't maintain a warehouse for that. You get it right now and put that to the manufacturing process. Okay, we'll see how that is done. Actually, this is a Japanese system. Take down. Traditionally, operations managers set inventory levels by using formulae that balance the average fixed cost buying raw materials with the variable costs of storing them. Traditionally, operations managers set inventory levels by using formulae that balance the average fixed costs buying raw materials with the variable costs of storing them. Okay, so basically, I told you that they don't maintain a stock. They don't maintain a stock, but they get it down, store, used right now. Okay, and so they consider average fixed cost. What do you mean by fixed cost? Fixed cost, your electricity bill, water, telephone, right? So costs like that are fixed, right? The water bill will assume 5,000 rupees, right? And next month probably 5,500 rupees, and next month 4,500 rupees, something like that. There's no big variation. It is almost the cost, almost the same cost. Okay, so transportation. Transportation. What do you mean by transportation? So to transport from fort to Negombo, right, a lorry charges about 5,000 rupees amount of stocks, right, 1,000 kilos, 1 ton, right. The same lorry can be used to transport 1.5 tons. The same transportation will be charged. So that is a fixed cost. Cost will not vary. Fixed cost. The same cost. Okay. Right. So then, so don't take this down. In the mid 1970s, the world noticed, actually in 1970s, the world noticed of the Japanese Kanban or JIT inventory system. This is called Kanban system. We also call this Kanban system, but examiner might not put that word Kanban. So Kanban strives toward an ideal state in which production quantities are equal to delivery quantities. What do you mean by that? Kanban assumes that production quantities are equal to distribution, delivery quantities. What do you mean by it? What you get, what you deliver. Okay? So, production quantities are equal to the delivery quantities. Production quantities, yeah, all the production quantities will be delivered. You produce 5,000 kilos of chicken and soon you will deliver. That's it. Production equals delivery quantities. You don't keep at your stores. Okay. So there are advantages and disadvantages as well. And in fact, if there is a big price fluctuation, if the price increases, you will have some sort of a disadvantage. Because if you keep that stock with you, you can sell it for a very high price and you can earn a big margin. But disadvantage is, what if the price decreases? There's a big disadvantage is also involved. Right? So in this JIT system, you don't take either the advantage, you don't take neither the advantage nor the disadvantage. Okay? Production amount equal to the delivery amount. Okay, right. And that's all about JIT system. So there are advantages. Continue. This minimizes carrying costs. This minimizes carrying costs, the expense of storing and moving inventories. This minimizes carrying costs, the expense of storing and moving inventories from storage to production flows, production location. Right? Inventories from storage to production flows or location. Right? So this type of materials are very small. Okay? So just in time to be fused and finished goods are produced and delivered just in time to be sold. Right? Produced, same amount will be delivered, same amount will be sold. Produced, delivered, sold. Okay? So that is just in time system. Right. Now you have a question. So can this method be implemented right away? No. It can be implemented, right? It can be implemented partially as well. We call that partial implementation. Okay. So there can be, what are the disadvantages? Some supply shocks might also be there. Supply shocks. Okay, because so what if the supplies get stuck, right? Suppliers, they have a problem in supplying. So what will happen to the production? Production will stop. Production will stop. Okay, right. And okay, so that's all about the JIT system. JIT system. Okay, so I want you to find a video or two about just-in-time system, and just-in-time system is used by leading companies in Japan like Toyota. So why don't you go to YouTube and find? Okay, right. We will go to another topic. Another topic, capacity management. Capacity management. Capacity management. Capacity management, this is a particular function, but we don't think much that capacity management is important. Okay. So, what are the capacity management functions? Right. Monitoring, analyzing, tuning, implementing. So, all these things are capacity management functions. Right. Okay. So, capacity management is because a company has a limit for the company has a particular limit for the resources that it can expand. The resources that it can expand. The company has a particular limit. Okay. So the company has a limited amount of force, labor force, and also space, technology, equipment, raw materials, and inventory. Those are limited. Okay. So, for example, if an organization has, for example, these days, masks, right? Face masks. It is very important and people are seeking, but not available in the market because production is not in abundance. You can't find them. Okay, it's very difficult. Okay, because the companies in Sri Lanka, they don't have a very good capacity management system at the moment, and they never expected this problem, the COVID-19. Now they are finding a big problem. Okay, in manufacturing masks. Okay, so capacity management is also capacity management also deals with the capacity of an organization's processes. For example, new product development, marketing, as well as with capacity constraints that arise when various resources are combined. Okay, when the various resources are combined, the capacity management, it has some limits. For example, Micro Lanka company, they do manufacture a car in Sri Lanka, a small car. Right? They had a very big problem in manufacturing cars to meet the demand in Sri Lanka. So, the demand was very high. The company could not manufacture cars to that level. And they were going through a very big problem in capacity management that time. The labor was not enough, raw materials were not enough, technology, equipment, everything was not enough that time. Right? The order was about 500,000 cars, 500,000 cars a month. Okay, so the company could only make, right, 100 cars a month. Okay, so there's a big mismatch. Okay, so so the capacity management, so actually it is very critical. It has a very critical importance in ensuring that organization operates smoothly. Right, take this down. Right. Capacity planning. Take down capacity planning. Capacity planning. Capacity planning. Capacity is the maximum capability to produce. Capacity is the maximum capability to produce. Capacity is the maximum capability to produce. Right. Capacity planning. So we were discussing about the capacity management. When it comes to capacity management, there are some concepts, right? So labor force and technology and so many requirements, right? We will discuss about the capacity planning. Capacity is the maximum capability to produce. We took down. Full stop. Capacity planning is a strategic decision. Strategy. Long-term decision, right? So capacity planning is a strategic decision that establishes a firm is a company, right? Put it within brackets, company. A firm's overall level of resources. Right? There's a strategic decision about the overall level of resources. Okay. So typically what happens is any company would not have the same level of capacity, resources. By time to time, resources expands. Right? And when the company extends its services and extends its production levels, so then the business expands. Right. Continue. It extends over a time horizon long enough. It extends over a time horizon long enough. So you might have a question. So what if a company started with all the resources at the beginning? All the resources. It has a very handy building, 7-story building, right? Super luxury cars are given to the managers and well-educated staff, accounting department, marketing department, human resource department, all that. Okay. So, yes, can this be viable in a business? Actually, then so more the capacity, more the resources it has, in other words, those are assets. So assets you have to maintain. It involves again a high cost. But in contrast, you don't get that amount of income to match that expenditure. So a company will go for losses. Company will be running at losses. Simply that. So that's huge amount of resources at the beginning is unbearable to a company. Okay, continue. It extends over a time horizon long enough to obtain the resources. Put a dash and write. Usually, a year, a company would start up. Usually, a year or more for building, or expanding facilities, or more for building and expanding facilities, or acquiring new businesses, right? A business can stand its own, and a business can acquire another business, and the business can go for a joint venture. By that way, it can extend. So by that, it can extend. Okay. So, acquiring businesses. Lastly, capacity decisions affect product lead times. Capacity decisions affect product lead times. Comma, customer responsiveness. Customer responsiveness. So there's a big demand, company does not provide, customers will be disappointed and they will go for some other suppliers. A keen person would look at the business and he will start the business, and the original customer, the original businessman would lose the business. Okay. Customer responsiveness, comma, operating costs can affect the product lead times, customer responsive, operating costs, and firm's ability to compete. Firm's ability to compete. Competition. There's a competition. If you don't have enough resources, how can you compete? Competition. Right. So, what does this say? So, you get the good customer responsiveness, and you can maintain a very good product lead time, and also you can operate costs and your company's ability to compete. You can increase the competing capacity. All that would help your business to expand. Okay. So I told you strategic decisions over time horizon, long-term time horizons, right? So what are these strategic decisions? Right, take this down. Capacity expansion strategies. Capacity expansion strategies. Take this down. Capacity expansion strategies. Right. Number one, capacity lead strategy. Capacity lead strategy. Capacity lead strategy. It's a kind of a small topic, and we are going to take down a small note on that. Capacity lead strategy. Capacity lead strategy. Capacity lead strategy. Take down. Capacity is expanded in anticipation. Capacity is expanded in anticipation. Anticipation of demand growth. Capacity is expanded in anticipation of demand growth. In anticipation of, you hope that there will be a boosting time for demand. Okay, the demand will increase. Demand growth. Full stop. This aggressive strategy is used to lure, L-U-R-E, lure customers from competitors. Customers from competitors who are capacity constrained. Who are capacity constrained, or to gain a foothold, F-O-O-T-H-O-L-D, foothold in a rapidly expanding market. In a rapidly expanding market. What do you mean by that? Capacity lead strategy. So business anticipates a demand growth, and so this is a kind of an aggressive strategy. Okay, so actually you try to grab customers, grab customers from competitors who are capacity constrained. Okay, so that particular company is facing capacity constraints. So it has some sort of problem and they cannot provide the required amount of products, right? Capacity constrained. Or to gain a foothold in a rapidly expanding market. There's a market rapidly expanding. Yes, I will get the foothold. Yes, I will be the first. Okay, capacity. Right. It also allows companies to, it allows companies to respond to unexpected surges. It allows companies to respond to unexpected surges in demand. Unexpected surges in demand. And to provide superior level of service using peak demand period. It allows companies to respond to unexpected surges in demand and to provide superior level of service during peak demand period. Peak demand period. When there's a peak demand, yes, you will see the right time. Okay, there are some companies, they have capacity constraints. Yes, I will get the business from. Yeah, that might lead to competition. Then that particular company will be defeated. Okay. Next strategy is capacity lag strategy. Earlier, capacity lead strategy. Now it is capacity lag strategy. LAG. Take down. Capacity is increased after an increase in demand. Capacity is increased after an increase in demand. Capacity is increased after an increase in demand is reported. Capacity lag strategy. When there's a demand, yes, you will increase the demand. Right? Okay. Only when there's a capacity requirement, increase in demand, yes, I will increase. Take down. This conservative strategy. What do you mean by conservative? Long time practiced. People were comfortable with, not that is the best. This conservative strategy produces a higher return on investment. Capacity lag strategy is increased after an increase in the demand is reported. This conservative strategy produces a higher return on investment but may lose customers in the process. But may lose customers in the process. Why is that? When there's a demand, yes, you will increase the demand, increase the production. Right. It is used in industries with standard products. Standard products. It is used in industries with standard products and cost-based or weak competition. Standard products, cost-based. They're cost-based. They are trying to cut the cost always. Cost-based and weak competition. Capacity lag strategy. So survival in the business is very rare for these people. Right. So the last sentence. This strategy assumes that lost customers will return. Right? Very funny assumption. Very funny assumption, my dear students. Right? This strategy assumes that lost customers will return from competitors after capacity has expanded. Now you have a very limited capacity. Okay? When there's a demand, you will increase the demand, right? And as a result, you will lose so many customers. You assume that these customers will return. Okay? Okay, so these customers will return from competitors when the capacity is increased, right? It is very funny. It is very funny. So that particular concept is no more in today's business. Okay, not the lag strategy, but so you don't expect customers to return from competitors. Competitors have already won the customers will not return because company. So there are so many customer-oriented programs are carried out and people know how to retain the customers, and so innovative systems are used. And for example, take for example the best example in the country. So we are going through a conservative teaching system, not the education. Conservative teaching system in Sri Lanka. We have very conservative teachers, right? And widely they spoke about the bad consequences of technology being used in education. Yeah, they saw the bad sides as well as good sides, but the bad sides were more. So what has happened now? Right? So-called bad habits, they have to put that again back into practice and make use of it. Right? As I have already told you repeatedly, only the people, those who can adapt to the changes in the environment will exist. Dinosaurs will definitely die. Okay? So if you can't adjust to the environment, business environment, if you follow the lag strategy, right, so your customers will not return back. Once you lose the customers, for example, once you lose the customers will not come back. Okay, so you know what I mean. Okay. Average capacity strategy. Average capacity strategy. Capacities, take down. Capacities expanded to coincide, COINCIDE, coincide to happen at the same time. Capacities expanded to coincide with average expected demand. Very lazy method. Very lazy method. Average expected demand. This is full stop. Continue. This is a moderate strategy. This is a moderate strategy in which managers are certain they will be able to sell at least some portion of expanded output. Sell at least some portion of expanded output. And endure some periods of unmet demand. And endure some periods of unmet demand. Approximately, continue, approximately half of the time capacity leads demand and half of the time capacity lags demand. Half of the time capacity leads demand, half of the time capacity lags demand. So that's how it responds to the demand. It responds to the demand. Okay? Right. Right. And so that's all about the capacity management and the two strategies widely discussed. Okay, so and there has been questions in the past papers. I hope you have the past papers. Right. So that is the end of the lesson, operations management. We will take down a question. We will take down a question. Which of the following is not a quality for, which of the following is not a dimension of quality? Which of the following is not a dimension of quality for manufactured products? Which of the following is not a dimension of quality for manufactured products? Manufactured products. Answer number 1, reliability. Answer number 2, conformance. Answer number 3, performance. Answer number 4, timeliness. What's the right answer? Timeliness. Simple MCQ question. Write the answer. Another question. Right. Another question. Describe operations. A structured question. Describe operations as a system in both. Describe operations as a system in both production and service organizations. Describe operations as a system in both production and service organizations. We may try, we have discussed the products and service management of an organization. Okay, and we will discuss, we will do another question. Discuss the importance and challenge of inventory management. Discuss the importance and challenge of inventory management. We will try the answers. Okay. The last question. Periodic inventory system is a continual record. Periodic inventory system is a continual record of the inventory. Of the inventory level for every item is maintained. True or false? True or false? You may decide. Okay. So that's the end of operations management. Right. We will take down a new topic. Transportation. 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 What do you mean by transportation? So we've just done operations management and distribution. We know that there was another function called distribution. Transportation. Okay. What do you mean by transportation? So it's simple, getting goods from one place to another. Right? Okay. So getting goods and services from one place to another. So there are so many transformation modes are available. Right? It ranges from carrying goods on shoulders to pulling carts, sailing on the water, and advanced rockets that reach the moon. So all that is transportation. So high technology has delivered more efficient and effective transportation modes. High technology. Okay. So in other words, transportation has become a crucial necessity in the day-to-day life of people. But transportation, for example, these days no public transportation is used, and so as a result we are facing so many problems. It has become a transportation, a network that connects the entire world. This is also a fundamental feature that has led to the development of the trade. International and national trade would not have been possible without transportation. Okay, so you move some goods from your place to the town, and there onwards you will use some good transportation systems like lorries, cars, vans, and there onwards sailing on the water, and by using the rockets. So transportation takes place. So the more the transportation, can you imagine when we were in the very ancient times, people did transportation with a lot of they had actually big hardships in transportation. But so as long as we have the technology and innovative systems have been introduced, so that's not a big problem now today's scenario. Okay, take down transportation. Under that, a subheading, main components of transportation system. Main components of transportation system. Main components of transportation system. Right. The component number 1 is way. W-A-Y, way. W-A-Y, way. Put a dash and write highways, railways, airways. So we don't experience this in Sri Lanka. Cables, etc. If you go to Singapore, you will see how the cables are used to transport from one place to another. No road traffics. And it's faster and safer too. Way. Number 2, mode. Put a dash and write motor vehicles, carts, trains, boats, ships, airplane, rockets, etc. Mode. Next component, power. People power, animal power, wind power, fuel power, electricity, gas, etc. That power. Okay, electricity, gas, power. So those are components in the transformation. Way, mode, power. The last one, terminals. Very recently introduced to Sri Lanka, terminals. Bus terminals, railway stations, right? Bus stands, railway stations, and airports. So these are terminals. Very good examples for components of transportation system. Take down. We are going to next take down features of a good transportation system. Examiner will definitely test you on this. Take down the next feature. The features of a good transportation system. Okay, good transportation system. Number 1, speed. Speed. Number two, safety, cost effectiveness, sufficient capacity. Now, these days we have sufficient capacity in public transports if available, right? So one person must maintain at least a meter to from another person, the distance I mean. Next one, good standard in the procedures. Good standard in the procedures. Good standard in the procedures. Next one, legal aspect. What do you mean by legal aspects? Features of a good transportation, legal aspects. Put a dash and write. License. Comma, road rules. Comma, regulations, etc. So those are features of a good, effective transportation system, right? And okay, we are also going to take down an example. Okay, so I will put this on the board, the table. You may take down this. Here, cost effective. Safety, capacity, availability and easy access. Availability and easy access. Easy access. So 1 would be the best. 2, 3 and 4. Right. So I have put that in a table. Okay. Hope you can see clearly. So when you rank all the modes of transportation, so we have ranked it from first to least useful, and first is the best, and the second and the third and least useful, and most cost-effective way of transportation is maritime by ships, and the second best rail, and the third road cost-wise is very high if you do the transportation on air. Speed, air is faster, road is the second, rail is the third, maritime is the least fast. Safety wise, yeah, air is good, second road, rail is little riskier, and maritime is more riskier. Capacity, yeah, maritime. So you can put a huge amount of goods to a ship, maritime, and then the second best is rail, and you might have seen trains transport things from one place to another in bulk, and air, and so capacity, yes, huge. Road is the last one. So in air, you can transport some couple of lorries size of the couple of goods that can be stored in lorries, couple of lorries in one plane. And availability and access points. How available this is? Road is the best. And second best is rail. And air, bit difficult because you will have to put pre-bookings, and you will have to go to this place and that place and get permissions. It's difficult. And maritime is the fourth. Not easily accessible, right? Okay. So this is a nice presentation of taking 4 best modes of transportation. Okay, that ends transportation. That ends transportation, and now we will discuss trading. Next topic is trading. T-R-A-D-I-N-G, trading. Trade. What do you mean by trade? Trade. Right, take down. The simple meaning of trading is buying and selling goods. Buying and selling goods. Buying and selling goods. Okay, full stop. The ownership of the good is transferred from one person to another. The ownership of the good is transferred from one person to another. In the process of trading by exchanging goods, right? And there's another good point, and write this in different color. Goods are exchanged for a price. Goods are exchanged for a price. Unless if there is no this type of an issue, COVID-19. Now goods are sometimes provided free of charge. Okay, goods are exchanged for a price. Okay, so home trading and foreign trading. So likewise, there are some segments. So we will discuss what these segments are in foreign trade and home trading. Here you can see trading has been categorized into two: home trading, foreign trading. And home trading can further be classified as retail trading and wholesale trading. And foreign trading can also be classified into importing and exporting. Importing and exporting, right? We will consider what is retail trading. Okay, so you may go to PETA. You may go to PETA and see. So we will take a small item like t-shirts, right? Go to wholesale trader and ask one t-shirt. So he might ask, excuse me, how many number of t-shirts you want? One dozen comes to this much. Okay, so if you ask retail goods for retail purpose, right, from a wholesale trader, you will not be entertained anyway. Okay, retail goods are, so you can buy even in small quantities. Wholesale trade is you should buy in big quantities. By that you have the advantage of economies of scale. Economies of scale. Right. What do you mean by economies of scale? Economies of scale. When you buy goods in bulk, more the goods you buy, lesser will be the price. Economies of scale. More the goods you buy, lesser will be the price. Okay, so if you buy one product, one t-shirt, it will be 800 rupees. If you buy 12 t-shirts, a dozen, one t-shirt will be sold for 600 rupees. If you buy 100 t-shirts, a t-shirt would be sold for 400 rupees. Okay, here you can see how much you earn. Okay, so if you buy actually, right, for one t-shirt, it will be 800 rupees. So 12 t-shirts, the cost will be more, but so you can sell this particular t-shirt by keeping a margin, right? You buy this for 800 rupees, you can keep at least 200 rupees margin. So 200 into 12, the profit will be 2,400 rupees. You can earn a profit of 2,400 rupees, right, to match this price, and you can keep a profit at least 400 rupees. So 400 into 100, you can earn a profit of 40,000 rupees. Okay, so but if you sell the same for the same price 100, okay, so your profit will be 0. You buy one by one, and for the sale price 800 rupees, you will earn a profit of 0. And if you buy 12, you will earn a profit of 2,400 rupees for 100. And for 100 rupees, you will, if you buy 100 quantities for 400 rupees, it will be the profit 40,000 rupees. Here you can see, more the bulk will be, more will be the profit. More will be the profit. Okay, we call that economies of scale. Economies of scale. Okay, so but people at home, right, residents, mere residents, they don't want bulk stocks unless during this period, right? We are going through a very hard time, so retail shops are also closed, right? You might get products in bulk, okay, otherwise you don't want. Okay, so the people involved in wholesale trading are traders. So in retail trading, both retail traders and the customers. Okay, so next one is under foreign trade. Why does the foreign trade take place? So when you make excess of products like Japan, they make excess of automobiles, but Sri Lanka make excess of tea. So excess of tea, so that is more, that is too much for us to consume in Sri Lanka. What we do is we export, but the exported qualities are very high, right? Qualities are very high. Otherwise, people in the other countries won't buy. So in Japan, quality cars sometimes come to Sri Lanka, but because as a developing country, we are very much conscious about the price. So we are getting cars from Japan. So they have excess of cars. So cars come to Sri Lanka. We export tea to other parts of the world because we have an excess of tea manufactured. So importing, we are getting things down from other countries is importing, and excess of products we have in Sri Lanka exporting. And you might also have a problem. So if that is the case, why do we exports manufactured in free trade zones and we send them to other countries without using, for like branded t-shirts, shoes? We manufacture here in Sri Lanka, but we export them to other countries without using. We love to use those shoes and t-shirts, but we have a very least chance of using them. Okay, so that is called re-exports. We get things from other countries and we assemble and sell. So it's another kind of exporting, and those are not used for Sri Lankan buyers. Okay, so we'll take down under trading. Take this down first.